Good evening. Welcome to the latest edition in our Holy Week at Home series. Tonight, our theme on Good Friday is Safe Home. It's an interesting theme to think about in this time when most of us are actually feeling less safe in a lot of scenarios than we perhaps ever have before. Going to church, not safe. Going to school, not safe. Hugging our friends, not safe. Standing too close to other people, not safe. I went grocery shopping this week and had the experience of thinking, wow, this is very stressful in these times. Not because anything bad happened, but because of the amount of high alert that was required to make sure that I was always paying attention to where everyone else in the store was and not sort of walking within 6 feet of anyone else, and paying attention to not touch your face, don't touch your face, don't touch your face. And I'm out in public and using hand sanitizer and trying to shop for 2 weeks worth of food, which is also not something that I'm accustomed to, and to sort of go through the whole long list to make sure that I have everything. And so it was way less safe an experience than I usually experience at the local grocery store. On the other hand, this is a time when we're looking to our homes for safety in a way that we maybe haven't, to quite that degree, done before. Lots of people are talking about reframing stuck at home to be safe at home. Now, if you're feeling stuck, I think it's okay to say, heck, I'm feeling stuck. But I think that reframing to safe at home helps us remember that we are privileged people to be able to be at home and to experience our homes as safe places, or at least most of us are. So our homes are probably physically the safest place for us to be in the midst of this pandemic. But how do we make sure that our homes stay emotionally safe? How do we make sure that our homes are places where people feel safe? And I got thinking about safety, and I think one of the things that helps us feel safe emotionally and spiritually is an environment where people don't explode. And this is a candy thermometer. I use it at Christmas time to make fudge. That's probably about the only time I use it. Occasionally I'll make some sort of chocolate with it at Easter time, although I'm not doing that this year. And one of the things I think that is essential to safety is that we take our own emotional temperature now and then. That we take time to notice what's going on in our emotions. How are we feeling? Where are we feeling unsafe? Where are we feeling anxious? Where are we feeling exhausted? Where are we feeling irritable? And we need to become aware of those things, because when we're not aware of them is when we're in fact the most unsafe to the people around us. Because if we have all of those emotions kind of like a pot of candy that if you just left it on the stove with heat, it would boil over and make a giant mess and probably burn your hands. That's us when we have all of these complex emotions and in some ways primitive emotions going on inside us, right? In lots of ways, it's all about that fight or flight response. We are all triggered into a sense that our safety is in jeopardy, and that brings out the part of us that is self-protective. And so we need to take our emotional temperature, because if we don't, there's a couple of things that can happen. One is we can get caught up in numbing behaviors. So, we drink too much, we eat too much, we watch 23 episodes of TV all in a go, all of those kinds of things that allow us to kind of shut down. Or, and this is perhaps even more dangerous, and I think it's something that a lot of our grocery store workers have been experiencing, and that's emotional offloading. So if we don't allow ourselves to know what we're thinking and feeling, well, we dump it on everyone else, right? So something little suddenly becomes a trigger, and we're annoyed at the grocery store clerk, or we're annoyed at our spouse, or we're annoyed at our cat, or we're annoyed at whatever. And the amount of emotion that's attached to that, absolutely whatever happened might have been irritating, but the amount of emotion that's attached to that is way out of proportion to whatever happened. And that's because we have all of this emotion simmering within us that we're not even quite aware of, because we think that we should not be feeling as anxious as we are. And so we need to get good at taking our own emotional temperature and saying, Is this a struggle moment? Is this an easier moment for me? And knowing how we're doing. Once we've done that, and if we discover that we're in a decent emotional moment, this is not something to do when you're feeling like, oh, but this is something to do in those moments when you're feeling, okay, I've actually reached a reasonable equilibrium, is to check in with our loved ones and invite them to take their emotional temperature too. Because there's nothing that creates a better sense of safety than having somebody genuinely ask, how are you doing? And want to hear the answer. And so when we can give that gift to the people we care about, whether that's the people who live in our household or that's the people that we interact with through Zoom and so forth, all of that is really amazing. And so the gift of giving people attention, when we have the emotional resources in ourselves in that moment to do so, is also a way to create safety in our homes and communities. Another thing I think that helps with safety is that we're going to have to get ready to expect imperfection and exhaustion. This is not a time to expect too much of ourselves. It is not a time to expect that everything is going smoothly. Brené Brown says that we should expect in this time frame that everything is going to take 2 times longer, so twice as long as you think it's going to take, be 10 times harder than you think it's going to be, and that we're all going to be 25% more irritable. I see that a couple of people are watching and that someone's going to check in with their family tonight, and that is amazing because I think that's a great gift. And I think we should extend to ourselves this grace that things are going to take longer, be harder, and that we're just plain going to be irritable. But we also need to extend that grace to the people we love too, right? That they are all going to find that everything takes way longer than they expect. It's way harder than they expect. And they're just crankier. Now, I talked a bit about numbing. I do think that selective distraction is sometimes a way of creating safety for ourselves and others. And so that means not sort of mindlessly numbing ourselves, but deciding, actually, in this moment, I'm feeling super anxious, and so I'm going to go for a walk. Or I'm going to read a book that I find fun, or I'm going to turn off all devices that get the news and watch a silly movie, or play a game with someone I love, or call a friend. To choose not to focus on things that are going to kind of raise our emotional temperature. Another strategy for doing that is around staying in the now. So the more that we can be in this present moment, not what we think is going to happen next week, next month, 6 months from now if we're still doing this. But what needs to happen today? What can I do today to ensure my own well-being and the well-being of the people in my household? If I've done that, then I've done my job. And then the final thing, I think, is that we need to remember that we are not the only resources involved in this, that we can draw on resources that are deeper than ourselves, that through prayer we can connect with God, through living we can connect with God, that we can just say, hey, I need some help here, when we're just feeling like there's too much and we're too tired and we don't have it anymore. To remember that the resources of something bigger than us are also part of this equation, and we don't have to do it all on our own. That we just have to show up, be real, and do our best. And that God will meet us in our imperfection and help us to create safety for ourselves and others. So I want to end with a scripture passage that seems quite appropriate for Good Friday. It's part of Jesus' farewell address as given in John's Gospel. Just before he dies, he gives a long speech to his friend, and I'm just going to quote the beginning and something that's towards the end. You probably have heard the first part at funeral, and maybe the last part too. So let me leave you this night with this. Do not be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. My Creator's house has room to spare. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I give you not as the world gives. Do not be troubled. Do not be afraid. May it be so in our hearts and in our homes this night. Blessings to you all, and thank you for watching.